A few years ago on Christmas Eve, a group of 20-somethings got together to watch a movie.
For some reason, we're all on FaceTime and now with our families, and we just decided to watch all 4 Barney Christmas specials in one night.
And I know just who can help us. Barney.
Ugh, I love this one.
Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open.
Brandon Smith and his friends aren't just watching Barney. They are giving director's cut level commentary.
And we're just watching it, kind of like critiquing little things. So we like watching for like little heads, like, oh, somebody's arm rod.
Brandon and his friends are professional puppeteers, so they know how the sausage gets made on these kids' shows.
So we're watching these, like, I think the suit ripped here. It's like, oh, you can see a bit of the camera up here. Oh, you see a studio light. So we just kind of watch it and goof off.
Okay, who is this group of friends, and how do I get invited to watch Barney with them?
I'll often just randomly do the voice as we're watching it, like reiterating lines. Because like I said, I remember all these lines, so I'm constantly like repeating the dialogue. Like, I know what he's about to say.
Oh boy! Hi everybody! It's so good to be here today. Oh!
Gosh, that is too good. Brandon is clearly a man of many talents. So are his friends, Bradley Freeman Jr.
It's got like a lot of room for energy, so he can be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But then he can also be like, oh, I love you. Like he can come all the way back down.
And Sebastiano Ricci.
Oh, you watched Barney? Yeah. I liked Barney. I watched Barney. Oh, you did too? Yeah.
The 3 friends met at a puppetry workshop in 2018. Sebastiano says they realized they could all trace their puppeteer origin stories back to loving Barney.
And it was sort of the first time that you would say that and people wouldn't like raise an eyebrow. It'd be like, no, I also loved that show. That show is also part of the reason why I do what I do.
Today, Brandon, Sebastiano, and Bradley all work as puppeteers on pretty much the most famous kids' puppet program of all time, Sesame Street.
Sometimes like we'll be on set together and just like look around like, can you guys believe we're doing this? Can you believe we're here? And can you believe this friend group started because of a purple dinosaur?
Oh!
From Connecticut Public, I'm Sabrina Herrera. This is Generation Barney, a podcast about the media we loved as kids and how it shapes us. For a lot of young viewers, Barney wasn't just a character on TV. He was a friend, someone who taught them how to share or clean up their toys. And for this one group of friends, Barney also became a kind of mentor. Not so much the dinosaur, but the performers who brought him to life. For this new generation of puppeteers working in showbiz today, their friendship and even careers might have turned out totally different had it not been for a purple dinosaur. Episode 5, Purple Dino Puppeteers. A lot of people want to know how to get to Sesame Street. And for Bradley Freeman Jr., the journey starts in 1998 in Brownsville, a city in Texas right near the US-Mexico border. He's been a Barney fan for longer than he can remember.
With Barney, it's like, I don't remember my first time watching Barney, but he's been a part of my life since that moment, and it's been before I could even form memories.
Bradley was really good friends with Barney. Such good friends that they'd chat all the time.
I would sit there with this disconnected phone and talk on the phone, and my mom would walk in and she'd say, who are you talking to? I'm talking to Barney. And she was like, oh, okay, sorry.
Barney wasn't just in Bradley's imagination. He was tangible.
He never actually answered, but I really believed that we were having these long conversations on the phone. And then I would see him on TV and it was once again, oh, yeah, that's my friend.
He was just real enough. Someone Bradley and the kids on the show could talk to or touch.
Barney doesn't only exist on the screen. He exists in real life. You know, you can actually go up and give Barney a hug and talk to him the way that the kids are talking to him on the show. That was really special to me.
But other kids Bradley grew up with didn't exactly have the same love for Barney. They bullied Bradley about it.
Stuff like that was an easy target. I mean, a big purple dinosaur, a little yellow monster, a big 8-foot-tall talking bird, like all of that stuff is pretty on the nose when it comes to things that people can bully you about.
And so he learned not to talk about Barney with anyone.
For a very, very long time, it was just my thing. It was my thing that I would watch in the privacy of my own home. I wouldn't even really show my parents because it affects you to the point where you think everybody is going to make fun of you. So you sort of just keep it to yourself.
Barney became a gateway to other shows with characters that seemed just real enough, like Big Bird or Bear from Bear in the Big Blue House. And by the time he was 5 years old, Bradley knew he wanted to be a puppeteer.
So I did everything that I could to make sure that I was watching the things that I needed to watch to be able to do that.
So as he grew up, he practiced a ton.
And I started lip syncing to The Muppet Show and lip syncing to Fraggle Rock songs and lip syncing to like random musicals and just started practicing without even realizing that I was practicing. It was just having fun. That's just what I would do when I got home from school.
He and his sister made videos with puppets they bought at the grocery store.
We had these two characters called like Susie and the Fuzz.
He watched behind-the-scenes YouTube videos of puppet shows.
So I would stick the drumsticks into the arms of the puppets, and I learned how to use arm rods and control both arm rods for all of these characters.
He even trained his voice.
In middle school, on the way to school, I would sit in the back of my car, and I would be doing this thing with my throat, which was like this. For as long as I could, without coughing. Because I thought in my head, they are never going to hire me on Sesame Street if I can't do a Cookie Monster impression.
Years later, in 2018, when Bradley was 19 years old, he got an opportunity to try out his Cookie Monster impression firsthand. He was one of 30 up-and-coming puppeteers from around the world, selected for the competitive Sesame Street workshop in New York City.
It was my first time meeting other puppeteers, and out of my entire life, it was my first time meeting other puppeteers. You never meet puppeteers. It's just not something, especially in South Texas. Like it just doesn't happen.
That's where he met Brandon Smith and Sebastiano Ricci. And Bradley says this was a big deal for him. Meeting other puppeteers, yes, but especially meeting other puppeteers who were inspired by Barney.
There's this like real funny, odd intersection of, these five of us who loved Barney, were also puppeteers, and now are working professionally in the industry. I'm sure there's a few more of us, but I think honestly, it's kind of just us five, and it's really a cool club to be in.
Bradley, Brandon, and Sebastiano parted ways after that 2018 Sesame Street workshop. They lived in different parts of the country, but they stayed in touch. Then, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Sebastiano had an idea.
So I just took everyone, I put them in a group chat, and I said, hey, either y'all know each other or you're about to, because we're all puppeteers and we all have an appreciation for Barney.
The group chat was a place for them to nerd out about all things puppets.
And everyone loved the idea because there's something about when you meet another puppeteer, there's like this instant, unspoken appreciation for each other because we're in that same world.
But it also became a place to share their love for a purple dinosaur that didn't always get as much love from adults their age.
So on top of that extra level of not only do we understand puppetry and Muppets and all that, but we also grew up watching Barney and understood that a lot of people didn't like Barney. And now we do what we do because we were influenced by Barney. And that is very special.
And the group chat, it's still going strong.
And it's still got the same name. Purple Dino Puppeteers.
Say that 5 times fast.
Purple Dino Puppeteers.
The Purple Dino Puppeteers also includes fellow Barney fans Sedan Hooks, Mark Tarrant, and composer Mel Campbell. And Bradley says they get into it in the group chat. Like, they text back and forth about the best era of the Barney costume.
I loved the way the eyes blinked on this one, but I didn't love it on this one. But I love the RC eyes on Barney's Great Adventure and blah, 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 blah. It was a lot of conversations like that. And then eventually it just turned into just us talking. And every once in a while we'll share like a Barney thing and be like, yuck, or cool. But yeah, now for the most part, it's just us making fun of each other, as friends.
These friends watch Barney in a different way than a lot of us because of their experience as puppeteers. More after a short break. I'm Sabrina Herrera. Support for Generation Barney comes from BetterHelp. It can be hard to make sense of everything going on in the world. If you've ever thought about trying therapy, BetterHelp is entirely online. It's designed to be convenient and flexible. You fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a therapist. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/dino today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DINO. Like the other members of the Purple Dino Puppeteers, Sedan Hooks is also a professional puppeteer. He made his Broadway debut in early 2024. When Sedan was a kid, he and his older sister were big fans of Barney and Friends. She eventually grew out of it, but Sedan didn't.
Then one day she kind of snapped and was like, it's just a man in a costume, right?
Okay, that is harsh. But that bombshell didn't have the effect she expected. It actually made Sedan more interested in the purple dinosaur.
And that flipped a switch in my brain. I was like, really? Okay, now I'm way more intrigued at how this is happening.
So when Sedan's dad took him and his sister to see Barney live in the early 2000s, he was really excited, especially knowing that there was someone inside the costume. He tried to share that excitement with the kid sitting next to him, but that didn't go exactly as planned.
I was like, it's really cool. It's actually just a man in a costume. I told this kid next to me, and his eyes got really big, and he sat and looked forward for the rest of the show because he was so disturbed learning that. And I couldn't understand why he was so freaked out because that was the best thing ever. Isn't it crazy how they make this magic happen? But to him, it completely ruined it. And I wonder where he is today. I often wonder where he is and how mad his parents were that I told him that.
Sedan was especially fascinated by the Barney costume.
Okay, that costume is over there on the stage. How do I get it off of that performer and stuff it into the car so we can take it home with us? And it'll just be mine.
So fascinated that he started trying to recreate it at home.
I'd wear my blue and purple footy pajamas and unzip the front and stuff a green towel down the front of my footy pajamas to try and look the most like Barney.
When he was about 9 years old, he called up his Aunt Brenda, who was a skilled seamstress, to see if she'd help him build a prototype.
Every weekend, I would go to my Aunt Brenda's house and we would pop in a Barney tape and watch and be like, okay, I think that's fleece on him. Maybe we should go to the upholstery store, get some foam, and we'll pad the body with that. It's that sort of thing. She is just, smoking her cigarette and sewing this Barney costume together.
Sedan's built the Barney costume himself 4 or 5 times. It's a process that he's enjoyed so much that he's actually working on another one now. But like his friend Bradley Freeman Jr., he had some growing pains with Barney. Sedan remembers a moment back in the 6th grade when he almost turned his back on the dinosaur.
And I remember crying, taking down all my Barney posters and putting up SpongeBob ones because that was the right thing to like at that age.
But luckily it didn't stick.
And I very quickly realized that my love for Barney wasn't going anywhere. And I'm glad that I made that decision because it drove everything, every wonderful thing that has come about in my life in one way or another has been because of puppetry.
Barney stuck with Sedan from preschool through elementary and middle school to today.
All of those ages, Barney stayed with me as a driving force of, okay, these are my goals in life. It gave me a very clear vision of where I was going and what my passion was. And I'm so grateful for that because I see so many people going wayward from what they love because of what other kids around them are saying or that sort of thing. And I'm glad that Barney taught me not to care very early on.
For Sedan, part of the magic took place inside the Barney costume. He wanted to know everything, from how Barney's mouth moved to the kind of fabric used to build the costume. Or rather, puppet?
Well, it's interesting because most people who work in the realm of television puppetry would resent the fact that the word Barney and puppet are anywhere near each other. But Barney, by their own definition, Barney is definitely a puppet.
I'd never thought of Barney as a puppet before. When I picture puppets, I think of marionettes on strings or sock puppets, not Barney. But in really basic terms, a puppet is just an inanimate object that's given life. Through us. The other purple dino puppeteers agreed with Sedan.
Barney breaks a lot of the conventional rules of a puppet.
Sedan says Barney is special. He isn't exactly thought of as a puppet in the same way as, say, Kermit the Frog or Lamb Chop. He thinks part of it has to do with all the hate Barney got from adults, and because he's not a traditional Henson-style puppet.
The lip sync isn't perfect, and his eye focus isn't all that specific. They don't follow a lot of those rules, but for some reason the character works. It speaks to the ingenuity of the design to me.
And so if Barney is a puppet, then Brandon Smith says the man inside the Barney suit was technically a puppeteer. You met actor David Joyner way back in episode 2.
David is one of the few unsung heroes of puppetry, because the things he did in that suit, no human being should be able to do that.
I mean, the jumping, dancing, and the 360 turns. Brandon marvels at the strength and mechanics of it all. For him, David's right up there with legendary puppeteers like Jim Henson and Frank Oz.
You go back and watch Barney and you think like, oh, it's just the big guy in a suit dancing around, but there's so much going on in there. Like, it's 50 pounds on him, and earlier it was 80 pounds, and he's got that bite bar, and every time you watch Barney sing a fast song, and every time he moves his mouth, that's David bopping his head up and down. He can barely see. He's got all this weight on him, and he's got all these kids and camera lights and all this stuff happening, and he was able to make it seem so seamless and so perfect that I get chills even when I watch it still. He's just so good.
And for the purple dino puppeteers, David's work inside that Barney costume helped inspire their whole careers. Sebastiano Ricci remembers that realization.
There's somebody in Barney. There's somebody playing the voice of Barney. There's people underneath the Sesame Street characters holding them up. That's a job. When someone goes to work, that's what they do for work. I want to go do that. I don't want to sit in an office for my entire life. That doesn't sound nearly as fun. I do this at home. I take my own toys and I make them talk and I have them tell stories. Why not get paid to do that? That sounds awesome.
For us viewers, puppeteering may look easy, but there's so much thought that goes into every single movement. Like with walking.
It can't look like you're on roller skates. It's the moving up and down. It's sort of that classic Muppet piston action. But it has to look like there's a real ground. You can't accidentally walk downstairs or walk up or walk toward the camera. You have to stay on the same plane.
Bradley Freeman Jr. is making sure the puppet is the right height on camera, and that it's looking directly at the audience. It's kind of like a duck gliding across the water. It looks calm on the surface, but underneath its legs are paddling like crazy. Because if puppeteering is done well, the person behind the puppet fades into the background.
Being a puppeteer is sort of like being a superhero, where you get to play these characters that the whole world knows, and it's you. But at the same time, they know the character. They don't know Clark Kent. They don't know who you are. You can live your life and not really be stopped.
Hearing Sebastiano describe it, puppeteering is almost like magic.
We are tricking people into thinking that what you're watching is real. We're tricking you into thinking this inanimate object is living and breathing and having these conversations and having friendships and relationships and conflict and emotion. It's all an act. None of that's true. It's fur and cloth and foam, but we are doing this illusion of bringing something that is inanimate to life. And I think that is super, super cool.
That's all part of how puppets seem to enchant us, to draw us in a way that's different from other forms of art or theater. For a long time, puppets have been a staple on our small screens. That's because puppets allow the audience to project their feelings onto them. They're kind of like a blank slate. And that can be especially powerful for children, who are still learning about how they're feeling and what that means. That's something Sedan Hooks has witnessed up close.
I puppeteered at this grief camp where all of the children that we were performing for either lost their mother, their father, or their sister, or their brother. And there was one kid in particular that was very much participating in the show.
Sedwan was playing a character named Pickles who was angry at another character, Relish, because he wanted to perform a magic show, even though his uncle Gherkin had just passed away.
And by the end of the show, they come to terms with it, and Pickles learns that it's okay to enjoy Uncle Gherkin through this magic show that he used to perform. And the child came up to me after the show, the one that was vocal the entire time, and was asking all these questions about puppets and asked if he could talk to Pickles.
So Sedwan brought out Pickles, and Pickles and the boy chatted while the other kids moved on to their next activity.
He was the last child to leave, and the counselor that ran the camp said I'm sorry. She said he had just lost his mother, and he was asleep when it happened, and he felt guilty because he wasn't awake. And the puppet show helped him to break through that sadness because he had spent the rest of his time at that grief camp angry and quiet and wasn't participating in anything. And this show was able to help him break through that and see that it was okay to move on with life.
For Sedwan, this really hit home the impact of puppets on kids. It's one of the reasons puppets are used in play-based therapy, to help them open up.
And that's the power of the art form that we're a part of. It's really something overwhelming if you think too much about it, but you can't be consumed by that part of it.
Barney and Friends ended in 2010, but Barney's now back as an animated character on Barney's World. And it turns out that this may be part of a trend within children's television, as shows move more toward animation and away from live action or puppet shows. A lot of big names in kids' TV, Bluey, Paw Patrol, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, are all animated. That's because animation has gotten easier and less expensive to make. And it's simpler to dub animated shows into different languages, giving them greater potential to go global. But there are still puppets on children's TV, like on Sesame Street, where some of the purple Dino Puppeteers work today. Bradley Freeman Jr. remembers when he got the email telling him he got the job.
We were Christmas shopping, and I looked at my phone, and I started hyperventilating in the middle of Target because I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I'm on Sesame Street now. And I told my aunt and my grandma, and they started crying with me, and I was just like, I can't believe this. I just can't believe this. I still can't believe it.
Bradley was first cast as the character of Wes.
We all play a part. We can make a big difference when we have a big heart. Oh! Good job, Wes.
He was described to me as a 5-year-old black boy who loves building and architecture and bird watching and has an excellent relationship with his father and is really outgoing and fun and smart. Basically all the things I wanted to be when I was a kid.
Bradley says that Wes was created around 2020 to help parents have conversations with their kids about race.
It was awesome to be a part of that. It's still awesome to be a part of that.
Bradley also now plays a boy puppet named Tamir.
I'm Tamir, and this is my show where we ask important questions to learn about our neighborhood.
Amir was 8 years old, which means that he's actually one of the oldest kids on the street. He is older than Big Bird, technically, because Big Bird is 6.
Wait, Big Bird is 6? I did not know these characters had ages.
And he's also sort of like, a sciencey kid and loves to do experiments and loves to make movies. And, he's a little awkward and gangly, but like fun, like really, really cool.
It's easy for Bradley to get into character for both roles because he relates to them.
They're not very hard to access because I know them so well. I know Wes and I know Tamir. And so it's very easy to just go straight into it. For the most part, the characters are so alive in our heads that we don't really have to do any kind of preparation to go into it. They kind of just are sitting there waiting to come out.
Bradley's on Sesame Street along with his friends, Brandon Smith and Sebastiano Ricci. Brandon is an ensemble puppeteer. He mostly assists other performers with characters like Cookie Monster or Elmo. Brandon says it reminds him of the work that Bob West and David Joyner did, working together to form the character of Barney.
It's fun to assist somebody and, help round out the performance and seeing how beautifully the puppetry blends together between two different people. Just like with Bob and David. Bob doing the voice, David doing the body, seeing how both of them doing two different things blending together.
Sebastiano assists other performers too. He says it's called being a right-hander, since it can take two puppeteers to operate some characters. And Sebastiano also plays a new character named Joey.
He's a cute little Italian-American boy. He lives with his dad on Sesame Street. He lives above Hooper's store, and they both really love to cook together. And he has a friend group called the Power of We that he hangs out with. Yeah, he's really big into recycling and keeping the environment safe. And he's a big baseball nerd, big dinosaur nerd. He has a little green triceratops on his shirt that he wears all the time.
And Joey loves to cook with his dad, which is something Sebastiano can relate to personally.
When I got the breakdown for the character, I remember saying, it's very similar to my relationship with my late father. That my dad was a cook on the side. He had his own little catering business that he would cater for friends and family. And I was his sous chef, and I would always cook with him. And when I saw the breakdown that said Joey loves to cook with his dad, I said, I totally understand that more than most people. So I really felt like I related to him.
For kids, part of the magic of Sesame Street is that they can really see themselves on the screen, just like they could on Barney and Friends. And now it's this generation of puppeteers that's inspiring the next through their performances, just like performers David Joyner did for Sebastiano and his friends.
There's moments, just random things will just trigger the moment of remembering, wow, I'm doing what so many people want to do and what I've wanted to do for so long, and now I'm doing it. Or moments where something will click and go, wow, so many children are going to watch this. They're going to watch this for years to come. You're shaping the childhood of the next generation of people, which is what the people I'm working with did for me.
Some of the Purple Dino Puppeteers have even had the chance to chat with Bob West or David Joyner. Brandon told us about a day in March 2024 after they had just wrapped season 55 of Sesame Street.
I'm hanging on set with all the Muppet performers, and we're just chatting and talking, and then I'm getting a text from Bob saying, congratulations on 55 seasons. I'm like, I'm working on Sesame and getting texts from Barney. I was like, where am I?
Oh!
For the Purple Dino Puppeteers, they loved how Barney moved and how real he felt. But for other Barney fans, it was all about the show's music.
Barney was the biggest teacher for me. A lot of things that I learned, when I think back, it was because of Barney.
And then when it got to me, I said, I wrote music for Barney the Big Purple Dinosaur. And the whole place they all gasped.
But for other people, Barney wasn't music to their ears.
I just did not like it because it was irritating. And the song was irritating. And everything about this purple dinosaur was irritating.
That's next time on Generation Barney. This episode was reported, written, and produced by Meg Dalton and Lily Tyson. It was edited by Cassandra Basler. Sound design and mixing by Jay Cowett. Jay also composed the podcast's theme. Additional music in this episode from APM. Megan Fitzgerald is our project manager. Additional editing help from Katie Tularsky, Erica McIntosh, Catherine Shen, and John Henry Smith. Thanks also to Bart Rockerburton Jr. and John Bell, whose work helped inform this episode. Marketing support provided by The Podglomerate. Legal review by Lou Levy from the firm Lerman Center, PLLC. Lauren Komrosky is our Chief Digital Officer. Vanessa De La Torre is our Chief Content Officer. Generation Barney is produced with support from PRX and is made possible by a grant from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation. Special thanks to PRX's Stephanie Kuo, our muse and fairy podmother, and also Mike Russo, Grace Abler, and Tony Carlson. To learn more about this podcast, visit ctpublic.org/Barney. I'm Sabrina Herrera. Generation Barney is a production of Connecticut Public.
He sounds like someone's impression of like a kids show host, and I think it sort of developed from Barney himself, but he's got this lovely sort of like baritone, almost Bullwinkle-like voice, you know, where Bullwinkle's like a, come on, Rocky, let's do this thing. And Barney's kind of in the same place, like, oh, stupendous. You know, he's sort of in that same, like, nice, but then his voice gets, like, nice and it's got, like, a lot of room for energy, so he can be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But then he can also be like, oh, I love you. Like, he can come all the way back down.